So here we are at the very tedious process of cleaning components, right? And so these are two pretty main components, but you know, if you're doing anything where you're taking a donor vehicle and you're going to use it for something new like this factory fat kit car, you're going to have to recondition parts. So there's a little bit of a process into doing that, and over the years, since I've worked on a lot of older vehicles, I kind of have a pretty basic understanding of how I like to go about doing it and my process for doing it. So I guess in these videos, what I'm going to highlight is the little kind of processes that I use specifically to clean parts, to get them to get back to a more new-like condition. Because I don't want to install, I mean, if you look at the side of this transmission here, there's all this grease and stuff on it. And I don't want to put that in the car. And so here in a couple seconds, I'll show you the other side of this, kind of what I've started to do. So I've already kind of started to recondition this, and I'll go over that. But I want to clean it up as much as possible, because when I put it in, I want it to look like I did something to it, not just a direct swap. Now, maybe you're using a newer donor, maybe you don't need to do this. You know, you kind of have to assess, I guess, each donor situation as to what you think is going to be the, you know, the plan, right? You have to kind of come up with that on your own. So a lot of the times, and this is just like when I take an assembly off of something and I see that there's bolts in a pattern, and then if I take those bolts out and they all happen to be different sizes. So this is a trick that I use, and it's pretty simple. I mean, you might already know this, but just in case you don't know this, here's my trick for putting the bolts back in the right spots. So on the bell housing here, it has different sized bolts. So what I do is I get a piece of cardboard and I mark an up. That is the top. So kind of like if you're looking at this from this side, right, dead on, you would have, you know, those bolts in that pattern. And then I just kind of mark them in the positions that they look like they're in. And you don't have to get it too dead on. And then as I take them out, like this bolt here, I just insert them. And sometimes it's a little easier with smaller bolts, but just insert them in the hole. And then that keeps it in place. You can also use that to paint it or coat it when you're, you know, later when you need to do that. Put some clear on it or paint, whatever you're gonna do. And that's what they do for that kind of stuff. So that's just a little thing there. Now, what I've already done over here is I start out like least abrasive to most abrasive. So I'll kind of, hold on. All right, so I started out with Simple Green. Simple Green is pretty light abrasiveness, like pretty, I guess, chemically, it's on the, I don't know what the name, I'm not a chemical person, you know, but anyway, it's on the less side of things. So like you use to clean your bathroom and stuff like that. Now, then like this stuff, this is like degreaser for parts and stuff. This is like on the higher side. You'll see that it like makes aluminum and stuff change a little bit of color. So I'll show you the details here. This right here is kind of what this other side looked like, all kind of greasy. Now this is what this looks like here, all kind of shiny, or a little bit cleaner. And then I started with Simple Green and a toothbrush. Just an old toothbrush, and just kind of breaking stuff up. And then I went to this stuff and a brass wire brush like this. I like brass wire brushes on aluminum because they don't mess with the aluminum. If you use a steel, remember, steel is on the harder side than aluminum. So if you use steel on aluminum, you're gonna get, if you want to polish it, that would make sense. If you just want to clean it, this is the best. This, in my opinion. So that's what I've done. So this is the general condition of the starting point of the transmission here. and I'm going to clean it up. I have a new shift fork. I have this new throw-up bearing there. I have all that new stuff. I'm gonna clean up that little plate that goes there, clean up all that stuff. So stay tuned, and we'll get it cleaned up. And if you've never done this before, you know, this would be a good thing to watch and see the progress on how it goes and what works for me and what doesn't. So there you go. Alright, so simple green plastic brushes. Kind of breaks all this little stuff up here. And then the next step will be, oh, and I also stood it up on the bell housing. Makes it much easier to get underneath and all around. But yeah, so that's, I guess, step 2. Plastic brush like this. This is just a plastic brush at like Home Depot. Simple green. And then I got a smaller plastic brush to get like all the little stuff like that. That plastic brush there. And that gets all the little crevices and all that stuff. Now the next step will be the super clean degreaser and the bronze brush. So stay tuned for that part. Alright, so this, actually let's do a quick little go around. This is after simple green plastic brush, simple green, or simple green plastic brush, and then super clean bronze brush, then one more super clean, or simple green, just to kind of wash and rinse off all, because that stuff leaves like a white film. So to rinse it off, I did more simple green, and then as I'm simple greening, you could see the like sediment almost sit, because I'm assuming because this casting is not smooth, you get like sediment sits in it. And so I've just been going over it with rags and simple green to try to like loosen up some of it, but not bad for, I think 180,000 miles, something like that, 120,000 miles in 1996. If this is the original transmission, which I believe it is to be. Not horrible. I'm going to try some like WD-40 on some spots just to kind of put some sort of protectant on it. But I mean, I don't know how good I got the detail on the first part of this video, but that's, yeah, it's not bad. So that's that part. You know, just work. Ogres, time consuming. Just scrubbing away, letting it drain. You can see, I mean, check out, that's all the dirt that was on it. Down in this barrier paper here. I mean, that kind of greasy sediment, you know, that came off of it. So, just so you know, it is possible to get it cleaner. Just take some time. So, yeah. Like I said, I'm gonna throw some, I think some WD-40 or something on it. See what happens. Alright, so cleaned up the inside here. I mean, that was pretty much covered in clutch dust. That's after wire brush, super clean, just going over it, scraping all the stuff off, and then sopping it up with rags and stuff. There's a clutch fork there. I got a new clutch fork and I got a new pivot ball there to install. New throwout bearing as well. So all that stuff can just be thrown out. It'll be all new fresh stuff. So I want to do a little bit more detailing, a little more cleaning, but I don't know. it's a little better looking, a little bit more presentable. Still not brand new looking, but you know, what do you expect? So yeah, it's just, you know, time-consuming stuff. Just gotta put in the, I guess they call it the elbow grease or something like that. One of those things. All right, so here's where we are at. Transmission is pretty much cleaned up, ready to, I gotta put the clutch fork, new clutch fork in and all that. But now we've moved on to the engine. So the engine, out of the same car, same 96, you know, however many miles on it, from the donor. So this is, I've taken all the accessories off the front. There's like an aluminum bracket that goes here. You can see that there with the coil on it. And there's that's on the left side of the engine if you're looking at it. Both, you know, the coils sit here. And then this is the water pump pulley, crank pulley. I've taken all that off to kind of clean it. And it definitely looks much better than when I started. You know, there's a lot of grime and stuff on this engine, so that's been the challenge, is wire brushing it. And you can see in the bottom of everything. And then, so there's a couple things you have to do to the engine to get it ready to go in. You have to flip the exhaust manifolds around. The one thing I'm a little confused about is, since this is gonna be moved pretty much over here, I don't think that EGR tube is gonna work anymore. Also, they recommend a shallow oil pan. Apparently this oil pan sticks below. It's 6.25 inch, 6.5 inch deep, so it sticks below the frame rails. The one I found is a Moroso. It's 4 inches deep, so it should be about there, I think, 2 inches. That should work better. Let's see, what else? I mean, been cleaning it up. Just going over it, you know, simple green degreaser, wire brushes, and just trying to break up all the old grease and whatnot. I like the design of this engine. I like how everything is laid out. You could tell it was like really well done when Ford did it. You know, it's good. It's got good fasteners. It's got a good layout of stuff. Super reliable. So it should be good. I'm gonna do new spark plugs, wires, and then I got new valve cover gaskets. And then I believe I have a new seal for the front seal. And then I want to replace the rear seal back here. And then clean that up a little bit. And then it should be ready to bolt to the transmission. Obviously I'll put in a new clutch, throw out bearing, and then be able to install it. I will need to get new motor mounts at some point. That'll be later on. I gotta get the oil pan first. The oil pan it's like $400 to $500 for the new oil pan, so it's not the cheapest, but I guess the alternative is you have this oil pan sticks down and you're hitting it on things, so it's probably worth it. Yeah, there you go. So, been working on the engine, getting it ready, because I want to bolt it to the transmission. So, I took off all the front brackets. There's a bracket here, big aluminum one, holds a coil, and holds some other stuff as well. I don't know what, I can't remember exactly what. This side just has a bracket that holds a coil. So that's that bracket there, aluminum, and that smaller bracket with the coil on it. I took the balancer, crank pulley off, harmonic balancer. I took the water pump pulley off, cleaned up, wire brushed, did all this. So I used simple green and steel wire brushes. What else did I do? It's a mundane task, but it's something, you know, you got to do it. If you're using a donor, again, the whole time I'm doing it, I'm thinking, just to have a crate motor. brand new. You just throw it in. It'd be so nice. Because then you don't have to clean anything. You just prep it, put it in. So anyway, took the exhaust manifolds off. General rule of thumb for me is if I'm trying to get the nut off and the stud comes out, it's time for new studs. And mine all came out. So it's time for new studs. Trying to clean up the head a little bit. I have new valve cover gaskets, which I'm going to install. That come with the new grommets for the bolts. I have new spark plugs. I have new spark plug wires. You have to get a new oil pan. So let me show you here. The oil pan, this oil pan is 6 inches depth, 6 1/4, 6 1/4, 6 1/2, something like that. So Moroso makes an oil pan, which is probably the one I'm gonna get, has a 4-inch depth. And it's specifically made for Cobra kit cars. So I'm gonna get that one. I also need to get new motor mounts. So unfortunately you get to the engine and you gotta spend a few more bucks to get the donor up to a certain point, unfortunately. So that's where I'm at on this. This has taken me a couple days to kind of clean. I didn't do a video at like the end of the first day of cleaning because there was a lot to clean. So I'm just trying to chip away at it here and there. I'm gonna try to use as much of the fasteners. I really like the quality of the fasteners that Ford used on this engine. So I'm gonna try to reuse as much of it as possible. I don't think it's too worn out. Just wanna brush it up and clean it. But other than that, I'm also gonna do new seal here. So the crankshaft seal on the front, and then I have a new rear main seal for the back. And that is, I think, and I might also do a tensioner pulley. If I can just get the pulley, for the tensioner pulley sounds a little rough. So I might get a new tensioner pulley. And then everything else, if I touch it on the engine, it'll be because I've tried to run the engine and I find that I need to replace it. But I'm gonna try to go essentially like, as close to the way it is as possible. I'm gonna bolt it up to I got a new clutch fork, I got a new throwout bearing, or clutch release bearing, they call it. And yeah, just try to, and a new clutch. So hopefully, I'll probably do one other video of when I'm done with the engine and cleaned it all up and put everything, then I'll do a video. So yeah, until that step, which might be the next same video, just it's gonna cut here and then start again. On the dot. Here it is. Well, here's one side under the valve cover, the cam, single overhead cam. If it was the dual overhead cam, it would have the two cams, one for the exhaust, one for the intake. This one is just single overhead cam. Everything looks pretty good. Head bolts, rocker arms, valve springs. I'd say everything looks usable. And my whole purpose for taking that off was to replace the valve cover gasket. I've done all the spark plugs, so now it's valve cover gasket on this side and then one on the other side, and put everything back together. But everything looks good. Clean up this mating surface and then put the cover back on. All right, so where are we at? We are just cleaned up the engine, replaced valve cover gaskets, and now it's coming down to putting the engine and transmission together so they can be installed in the car. Now, it says in the manual that you will need a modified or a different oil pan, because if you see there, that is I think it measures out to 6 inches of a sump, and apparently that will hang down in the frame below the 4-inch tube, the bottom of it. So this Moroso pan here is a 4-inch sump, 4.5 I believe, and so it will clear. Just kind of spreads it out a little bit wider, doesn't drop down as far. Part number of that is 20549, and it's specifically designed for a Cobra replica with a 4.6 liter modular motor. And then you will also need a new pickup tube, because as you can see, that one sticks down pretty far. So I've ordered new gasket, new pickup tube, and new sump, new oil pan. So I'm just took it off, cleaned everything up a little bit. Now I'm about to test fit. It says to test fit the new pan, so that's what I'm about to do. I gotta clean up the bolts though. All the bolts are a little messy. I'm gonna clean those up, so that's the next step. All right, so this is the stock pickup tube, and this is the Moroso fabricated pickup tube. Not quite sure what that piece does, but you can see a little shorter. Comes with an O-ring replacement. Seems like pretty decent quality, decent welds. Has a screen for pickup, where this one I guess has a screen as well, but that fits. So this oil pan in that box has a baffling system in it, which when I get it out I'll kind of show you, but yeah, so that fits, that square piece fits down in there, and then this tab here bolts up to that there. You can see that piece. So yep, that's it for that section. So here it is with the tube installed, new pickup tube, 2 8mm bolts here, O-ring, and then 110mm bolt here. This one didn't line up as easily as I would have liked, so I had to manipulate it in there, but there you go. As you can see, it doesn't stick down as far as this one. So here is the new oil pan. As you can see, much shallower than this one over here. As you can see, is a much deeper sump, so that'll fit nicely. And then these little baffle doors there. We got a drain here, some other plug for the front. I don't see an oil level sensor. I guess that could be what that's for. I don't know, we'll have to see. Either way, that's it there. I got a new gasket for it. So they recommend that you put the new pan gasket bolted up first and then rotate it so that you can see if any of the I don't think it's gonna hit, if any of that's counterweights or connecting rods hit anything, which if that is as low as it sticks down, I don't think it's gonna hit anything. So, but anyway. All right, so this is the new gasket. Pretty good quality. Not sure which yet is the front of the back. There's the part number, 93164 Morosa. And they say every place where this meets this, you want to put RTV. So we'll be doing that and then installing this. Just got to figure out which is front, which is back, which I'm guessing. I'm gonna guess the front is, see, this is the front here. Because so you can see these 2 bolt holes, or 4 bolt holes, are gonna match with those 4 bolt holes there, because they're close. Those 4 are close. These 2 back here are pretty far away, so they're more like these here. That's what I'm going with. And then up looks like oh, it's called Made in USA there. I think up, let's see, the old one had it tabbed down, side tabs down. Okay, just like this. So this will fit like that there. Bam. All the holes line up. That would have been another easy way to figure that out, but there you go. So here it is. Oil pan installed, and you can see definitely does not stick down as far as the stock one. It's a pretty nice pan. I did have to, so with the stock pan, you have full access to these bolts here. But as you can see, with the shallower, wider sump, it blocks. So I did have to come up and get a little creative. I went and got some flange bolts that were a little short. I could slip up in there. And then this here, I just used a bolt and went through the top, and then a nut and washer, and I did the same thing on this side with these 2 here, and then I just need 1 more bolt to go there, so I just still have to finish that up. But yeah, so that's how I solved that problem. I torqued everything down. They said to start in the middle and spiral your way out from that, and there it is. And so at this point, minus cleaning up of a couple of the little front accessories and torquing the harmonic balancer back down, the engine is pretty much ready to go. So my next steps will be to mate it with that and then install in there, and that's going to be it. Might be a little delay in that as we got a move coming up here of the shop, so that might delay things a little bit, might space things out a little bit, but anyway, that's the next steps.